Apple's causing a little bit of a ruckus, aren't they?
Uh-huh.
They got this new little button inside the settings over there. Mm-hmm. And your phone actually might be charging more slowly because of it.
Yeah.
Which is really... I mean, do I need to say how that makes it? I just... When companies, particularly tremendously successful corporate giants, hit you with this type of stuff, and like, listen, it's possible. I don't know. I'm not currently on an iPhone. I'm using an iPad. It'll probably get the same feature at some point, but I don't know how they're going to implement it. If it's going to be automatic with the software update, or if
it's automatically turned on.
It is? Are you sure about that?
I think so.
If it's automatically turned on, then that's insane.
Yeah.
Slow charging on purpose, by default, slower than it actually should charge because of...
carbon offsets.
Holy moly. And then now people over here are saying their iPhones charge so slow. Now they got to check if this feature is enabled. Apple iPhone users were stirred up on Sunday as they became aware of a somewhat new feature intended to reduce the carbon footprint by charging only when lower carbon emission electricity is available. Whoops. There's none of it right now. It's all dirty. All the electricity is dirty right now. No charging for you. We've deemed that the electricity is not clean enough to be inserted into this perfectly pure iPhone.
Yeah.
Angelic iPhone only takes the cleanest of energies. Yeah. Apple introduced clean energy charging with the release of iOS 16.1 on October 24th, 2022. The company claims that when the mode is enabled and a phone is connected to a charger, the iPhone gets a report of carbon emissions generated by the local energy grid and uses that information to determine when to charge the phone. Not what you want to do, not a schedule to like save you money, but a little toggle called clean energy charging that is going to not charge your phone when you think it's charging. I mean, that's all I can really discern from this at the moment.
Or maybe it's charging slower.
In your region, iPhone will try to charge by selectively charging when your lower carbon emission electricity is available. And they're supposed to, I guess they're going to like insert it into your daily charging routine in a way that still gives you a full charge. So maybe this will only happen at night or something. But I just don't even know if this is how people want to interact with their stuff. It's hard enough, man, keeping your stuff charged up. Then now you have some fanciness involved. Like even me with the electric car, it's like as much as I've tried to utilize some of the more, what would you say, like automatic charge features for schedules and things like that, it's still like you kind of need it when you need it, and it's a thing you want to have control over as a user, and you don't want to have to be guessing about. And I don't know how you would have confidence in this unless you have some sort of gauge or monitor on the home page, which is showing you at all times when this thing is engaged.
Yeah, like a disclaimer. Like when you start charging, it would tell you, like, hey, this won't charge until we get clean energy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can turn it off.
Yeah, you can turn it off. It's a switch.
The fact that it's a switch is fantastic, but I don't want it even by default because I think a lot of people, a huge percentage of people just won't even know that it's there. The casual users, I don't think they're going to know that it's there, and I could see major annoyance from this. Mm-hmm. And I understand people have pretty typical schedules. They'd be like, okay, well, this is only happening in the middle of the night. But then I would need a knowledge of my local power authority and what their variety of energy sources were in order to better understand when those moments might happen. It's a whole thing that puts the onus back on the customer. Mm-hmm. Which for companies, and I understand Apple's one of these companies that claims that they're tremendous for the environment, but these companies in general, manufacturing, goods, consumption, etc., there are consequences to it, right? There's ecological byproducts from these things. And anytime it's moved from the sort of back onto the customer in the form of some type of guilt, I just find that it's a little bit disingenuous from the company themselves, like in the sense that now you're managing something or you're feeling that you have a responsibility to manage it, when in reality, some of these megacorps are actually much better poised to have a bigger impact than any singular individual. And then you get into the argument of, well, what if it's every single singular individual? But to what extent? To where is the line drawn? I mean, do we get to a point where it's like you have now used your phone for 3 hours today, and there's a toggle enabled by default that actually changes your brightness to half after the first 3 hours in conjunction with clean energy production from your local power authority? Or what if it throttles the processor as they actually had a class action lawsuit against them in the past? A lot of people in the chat here are saying it's no big deal, it happens at night. But I'm not necessarily talking about this one implementation. I'm talking just in general about the idea of auto toggles inside your software for things that weren't there before. And again, I'm not sure that that's the case, but that's the key to me, is if you introduce the feature with the toggle turned off and people can choose to put it on, that's one thing. But if you introduce the feature with the toggle turned on, that's a totally different thing. That's my opinion on
and
the
it
matter.
affects your performance of using the phone.
I don't think it's inherently good or bad. I don't think it's that simple. But I think it does show a difference in kind of the way the customer is viewed by the corporation, and whether or not they are the driver, and whether or not they are the sort of the way the relationship is. Let's just tell them what to do type of thing, as opposed to, make a suggestion. It does matter. The introduction of the feature and the way that it's done matters as far as public perception is concerned. And the reason that there is this type of uproar is because of that small detail, is the fact that, at least in this case, it looks like it's a thing to be disabled instead of a thing to be enabled. But I do agree, regardless of that, it's probably a thing that in many cases is not going to affect people. People might not even notice because it knows the typical charge schedule, and it'll just charge over a longer period at night. But I got to believe there's also people with complicated schedules, paramedics and people that wake up in the middle of the night and are on call and immediately have to go, and then their phone is dead because the energy authority was burning coal. That's an exaggeration.
Yeah. Or the one time that you really need a phone charge and then you wake up and it's like still 15%. That's a problem.
I'm sure we're going to hear more about this.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to hear more about this.
You think other companies will follow suit?
Well, I mean, that seems to be the case. Apple is a leader in the space. What's weird about this one is it all depends on how much they publicize it, right? This is all having been publicized by users. If they go to the keynote and make a really big deal about it, then you're going to see other companies implement similar things, and we're going to have some increasing guesswork as to how the variety of algorithms on our devices are determining how they're, doing and managing things and all the rest of it. But I mean, you know me, I already feel like those devices charge too slow to begin with. So any kind of suggestion that I would have it charge slower really at any time is not something I would be super excited about, because there are so many devices that charge quite a bit faster than what the iPhone currently does to begin with. But I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. Yeah, you can do your thing. You can throw it in the chat, obviously, and in the comments, and you could say, well, look, man, Apple's sending a message here and making a difference. I mean, listen, that could be your prerogative. But I just think it's just one more detail in the way that corporation interacts with its user base. Just one more kind of indication of how that relationship is a little bit different than sometimes the way it works between other corporations and their customers.